The gas station bled tired light into the night, its flickering sign barely holding back the desert's darkness. You know, the kind where it feels like the edge of the world, where the only thing more worn out than the concrete forecourt is the man behind the counter. Oil stains had baked so deep into the pavement, they looked like old bruises that would never heal. Inside, the air sat heavy, thick with the stale tang of coffee left on too long, and the faint ghost of gasoline that never really went away. Jack Raston sat there, behind the counter, a battered paperback open in his hands. But his eyes, they drifted over the lines without seeing, like a man reading out of habit more than hope. 70 years written right across his face, every wrinkle a road that led back to battles nobody in town even remembered. His hands big, rough, scarred rested on the book spine, looking lazy, but if you'd seen men like Jack before, you'd know real stillness is never just stillness. Old instincts, they don't die. They just wait for the night to go wrong. The bell over the door jangled, and in that instant, the night shifted. 5 men came in like bad weather. Colt Baxter first, the kind of man who liked breaking things for fun, eyes sharp and hungry for weakness. Flint came next, tall and lean with a crooked grin that never touched his eyes, like life was some kind of joke only he was in on. Wade followed, shoulders so wide they barely cleared the doorway, knuckles tattooed with letters that made no sense but told you everything anyway. Trigger trailed after, youngest of the bunch, chewing his gum so hard it seemed like the only thing keeping his nerves together. Last was Mason Quieter, jumpier, his eyes darting to exits and corners, the kind of man who'd always be first to sense when things turned sideways. Jack marked them out in seconds, didn't need names, didn't need stories. He'd seen the type back in places with names nobody could pronounce, in years when survival meant knowing who was hunting whom. Colt leaned on the counter, close enough to let Jack smell the cheap whiskey and gasoline on his breath. "Evening, old-timer. How about you open that till?" The words came out smooth, but underneath you could hear the tremor of a man used to getting his way, maybe just a little afraid this time was different. Jack looked up, not hurrying for anyone, those steel-gray eyes like cold water calm on the surface, but you knew there was something below. "You boys sure about this?" he asked, like a man asking if they've checked the weather before a storm. Flint scoffed. "What's that supposed to mean?" Jack just let the book slip shut, soft and slow, setting it down like it might break. "Means I've seen men like you before." They didn't walk out smiling. Colt's grin flickered, some of the easy means slipping away. He leaned in, searching Jack's face for a crack. "You don't know us." Jack didn't flinch, didn't blink. "Don't need to. I know your type." "That's enough." Trigger shifted, hand drifting down toward his belt, eyes darting maybe a knife, maybe more. Jack's own hand slid under the counter, easy, familiar, finding the cold comfort of old steel. The revolver beneath the register was older than any of these punks, but had saved his life more times than he could count. Colt's voice dropped low. "We're not asking, Grandpa." Jack's gaze sharpened, the air between them suddenly tense, charged like the second before a fight. "You don't want to do this," he said, voice rough, but it cut through the room. Flint barked a laugh, but even he sounded unsure. "He's bluffing," he said, not quite meeting Jack's eyes. But Colt knew better. You could feel it, that ripple in the air when prey turns out to be something else, something older, hungrier. Colt tried to hold the line. "You got a gun under there?" Jack barely moved. "I've got more than a gun. I got nothing left to lose." The words hung there, heavy as the heat outside. Trigger's fingers twitched again, nerves winning out over bravado. Jack eased the hammer back, slow and steady, a soft click that sounded like a judge's gavel in that tiny room. "Don't," Jack said, and now there was no doubt. The mask was off. Mason saw if old predator, the wolf behind the eyes, wearing a sheep's coat just long enough for people to forget. Colt's swagger faltered just for a second. "This ain't worth it," he muttered. Wade stepped forward, tried to fill the gap. "What? We're just gonna walk." Colt snapped, voice thin now. Reluctant, angry, but obedient, they started backing out, the storm rolling out as fast as it came. Trigger hesitated. Just a second, eyes catching Jack. She saw what the others hadn't, a steady hand, a gaze that didn't miss. The bell jangled one last time as they pushed out into the night, boots scraping, shoulders hunched. Their bikes roared to life, engines snarling, but there was no swagger left in their escape-only hurry. Jack didn't move, not for a long moment, the old hunter's quiet returning like the tide. He let out a slow breath, lowered the hammer, revolver disappearing back onto the counter, one more secret among many. The scars under his shirt burned with memory, jungles, deserts, nights colder than this one, places he never talked about. The book lay in his lap again, but this time his hands were steady. The desert pressed against the window, the darkness unbroken. But peace is a story folks tell themselves out here. Quiet is just the breath before the next storm, and if you live long enough, you learn to tell the difference. Now, here's the thing: everyone thinks they know what to do in a moment like that, but until you felt the weight of your own heart ticking like a clock in your chest, you don't know which way you'll jump. You might think Jack was just an old man with nothing left, but sometimes that's exactly the kind of person you ought to fear most. Because a man with nothing left to lose is the only one who doesn't blink. The night settled back into itself, the lights still fighting off the dark, the gas station just another dot on the highway. But if you look close, you'd see something different now, a line drawn in the sand, a promise kept. And if those boys ever come back, they'll remember the night the desert didn't blink first. So let me ask you, what would you have done, standing in Jack's shoes? Would you have stared down the storm, or let it wash right over you? Sometimes the only thing standing between chaos and calm is a man with old scars and steady hands. Leave your thoughts below. Let's hear where you draw your line.